Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. I guess it's finally time to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is who's going to be replacing Ray Stevenson in the role of Baylan Skoll. You know, Balon Skoll was a surprising standout character for the Ahsoka series, and to some fans, perhaps the most interesting character as well in the series. And a lot of that has to do with the amazing performance of Ray Stevenson. This towering 6'3" tall Northern Irishman physically dominated the screen with his imposing figure, but at the same time made audiences lean closer to the screen with his nuanced and weighted delivery of lines.
I know no such stories.
You weren't raised at the temple. Stories of this galaxy are considered folk tales. Some ancient past, long forgotten.
Do you miss it? The Order.
I miss the idea of it. But not the truth. The weak. To kill her would be a shame. There are so few Jedi left.
Sentimental.
Truth.
It was an excellent performance by Ray Stevenson, definitely one of the best in Star Wars in recent years. And many fans were dismayed to know that Ray Stevenson passed away just half a year after finishing filming the series. He had been in Italy filming The Picture Casino in Ischia, a story about a former action hero trying to revive his career. Ray Stevenson will be replaced in that film by Dominic Purcell. Ray Stevenson passed away just 4 days from his 59th birthday, so unfortunately he never got to see the premiere of Ahsoka or the amazing reaction fans have had to his character. Although it seems like in some of the interviews he did prior to the show's release, he kind of knew that audiences were really going to like how he portrayed Baylan Skoll. Stevenson is no stranger to fame, of course, having portrayed a wide range of different characters in the past, like Frank Castle in the Punisher Warzone film and Titus Pullo in the Rome series. He's also made appearances in big franchises like Thor, G.I. Joe, and Divergent. And Star Wars fans might recognize him as the voice for the Rebels character, Gar Saxon.
Why, Countess, you are harboring rebels here. Clan Ren is clearly a threat to the Empire and must be made an example of.
A role he would later reprise in the last season of The Clone Wars.
It's been a while since we had a fight like this. Are you ready?
But Gar Saxon was just a simple henchman, and I think Dave Filoni recognized some brilliance through Ray Stevenson's voice work, and so he created this character Balon Skoll specifically for him. Gar Saxon was a bootlicker whose ceiling was limited by whatever great power he bent knee to. He was a weak individual and a one-dimensional character, the complete opposite of what Balon Skoll would become. He's perhaps one of the more complicated Force users in Star Wars, and definitely one of the most interesting ones to make it to live action. Balon Skoll is a wizened man who's lived through all of the major events that Star Wars fans have seen in recent years. He was alive for the Clone Wars, for Order 66. He saw the collapse of the Republic, the rise and fall of the Empire. Balon Skoll's entire life has been full of turmoil and destruction, and those experiences, well, they've guided him to seek something completely different from both the Sith and the Jedi. Rather than making only right decisions or only terrible decisions, Balon Skoll seems to offer a new pathway forward, one that's more morally gray and ambiguous, but has great potential. And in many ways, Ray Stevenson was the perfect actor for this role. He has the strength and stature to be a great villain, having played many heavies and toughs in the past, but clearly there's a lot more behind this actor's imposing figure. He has the sensitivity and range of emotions to clearly capture the tortured and saddened individual we see on screen. And I think almost all Star Wars fans really liked his portrayal, and all Star Wars fans are therefore very saddened by his early departure. You know, there are very few things that seem to unite Star Wars fans, but this is it. And of course, there's definitely a wide variety of opinions on how Disney should treat this character moving forward. Some individuals believe that Balon Skoll should never be replaced. He should be either killed off screen or just kind of vaguely move into the background so that we can remember Ray Stevenson's role as this character and him alone. Actually, considering the last moments of the season finale, it is possible that Balon Skoll's character could either disappear or die, or something terrible could happen to him, and that is because he is seeking some ancient hidden power. And that never goes right in Star Wars, and I truly believe it might be Abeloth here, so, you know, she was a figure with immense power, some might say infinite power, and so she could do a lot of crazy things. If Balon Skoll tries to free Abeloth from her prison on Peridia, he could be absorbed or consumed, he could be, you know, possessed even. I mean, Abeloth was known to do a lot of crazy things with what she considered as weak mortals. She even was a shapeshifter, so there's another possibility right there. So changing the appearance of Baylan Skoll could actually work from a lore perspective if Disney decides to go forward with a new actor. Now, fans are probably not going to want to see a CGI version of Baylan Skoll unless it is in a very limited capacity, or if they're showing some flashbacks of Baylan Skoll when he's younger. I know a lot of people have talked about that. I would love to see that as well. I want to see how he progressed and how he became such a dark individual and kind of where he started his journey. If they do use CGI, it should be limited though. I mean, judging by recent attempts in Disney, the technology just isn't there yet. Plus, there's, you know, an ethical debate about using CGI figures of deceased actors. I mean, there's a whole Hollywood strike that was going on prior to this, and I think that was one of the major issues that they talked about. And so I really do think the best way forward is probably recasting Balon Skoll with another actor. The show must go on. The character is too great to simply just get rid of. So there have been a lot of different names floating around, and I basically took a quick look and I chose the ones that I think actually could work, and I also chose some other popular actors who I think in theory could work, but there are some glaring reasons why it probably won't. I think as far as tone and overall vibe, Sean Bean would be a terrific replacement. He's played both Ned Stark in Game of Thrones and Boromir in Lord of the Rings. And oddly enough, he also narrated Civilization 6.
Under your leadership, we shall surely prosper.
He doesn't actually die in that one, so that's kind of new. But yeah, Sean Bean looks like he could be Ray Stevenson's cousin. And he's only 6 years older. And he has the same calm strength that Stevenson brings to the table. At 5'10", though, he is a bit shorter and smaller in stature. Something I'm pretty sure you can remedy by using, you know, maybe some lifts or some interesting cinematography. More importantly, Sean Bean has a proven record of playing characters who mean well, but oftentimes make poor decisions in the process of trying to do good, which is kind of what Balon Skoll is. I think Sean Bean would be a really natural fit as Balon Skoll. I mean, sometimes when you get an actor who's a little too different or maybe too famous, it can be really distracting, and then you kind of are like, oh, this isn't Ray Stevenson, this is someone completely different. And I think Sean Bean actually has the capability to really morph into this character without too many people noticing. I'm sure a lot of hardcore fans will definitely notice, but people who are new to the show in the second season, they probably won't. I think if Sean Bean does fill in this role, he won't really have to change that much at all about himself. Although I do think he might need to dial back that Northern Sheffield accent just a little bit. After all, one does not just walk onto the set of a Star Wars TV show. I do think the biggest problem with hiring a big name like Sean Bean is probably how much he'll cost. Unless Balon Skoll is headlining his own show, I don't think Disney will want to pay Sean Bean money for a character like him. You know, even though Balon Skoll's stock is on the rise, not because Ray Stevenson died, but because it's truly a great character, I still don't see Disney doing a spin-off about this character or spending the right amount of money to attract someone to replace Ray Stevenson. And that's because Disney's in this streaming war right now. Like, every large media company in the United States is just throwing cash and burning cash and losing tons of money trying to get market share into our homes. So yeah, they're gonna be frugal from now on, I think. And with Ahsoka, you already have an A-list actress in Rosario Dawson headlining, so don't see them spending good money to replace Balon Skoll. And I think a lot of these streaming companies also recognize that we're still kind of in a transition period. It's not that films will ever completely die, but they're definitely not as popular as they used to be. The pandemic definitely made things even worse. And I think, on the other hand, like, TV shows are not what they used to be. Like, in the 90s and even the early 2000s, TV shows were pretty poor quality. But now you're starting to see TV shows that look almost like movies, except they're much longer. If anything, a lot of the indie films that we used to see have now just been turned into TV shows, which I think is awesome. But are they really paying movie salaries to TV actors? I don't think that's caught up yet, but I think it will soon. But then again, franchises like Star Wars have always been able to attract all sorts of actors based on how much exposure they can give an actor, which is why we've seen some truly stacked lineups in recent Star Wars shows, especially in the Andor series, which featured amazing performances by Stellan Skarsgård, Dennis Go, Genevieve O'Reilly, Andy Serkis, Kyle Soller. I mean, this was just an incredibly loaded show talent-wise. That is the power of Star Wars. Appreciate it, Disney. Please do. But yeah, if Disney wants to avoid, fan backlash, which is almost impossible to avoid nowadays, they have to go with someone who fits perfectly into the role of Balon Skoll. It has to feel seamless, and I really think Sean Bean's the guy. He's one of the few actors out there who can replicate Ray Stevenson's performance and perhaps alter it a little bit to make it his own as the character goes through his own changes in the second season. Next is the name I've heard the most, and it's Liev Schreiber, who is, a huge, big, hulking guy whose own career kind of mirrors Ray Stevenson's in a lot of ways. Like Stevenson, Schreiber is also 6'3", and he's just 2 years younger than him. You probably know Schreiber best from his portrayal as Sabretooth, that's Wolverine's brother, and more recently, he headlined the show Ray Donovan as the title character. Like Stevenson, Liev Schreiber, he really has this big, dominating presence on screen that allows him to also be relatively soft and gentle. I mean, he really leans into a lot of these hulking characters he plays and brings out a sense of vulnerability that is what exactly makes Baylan Skoll so likable. More recently, Liev Schreiber also played the statesman Henry Kissinger in the film Golda, which really shows his wide range. Now, Schreiber is not as big of a name as Sean Bean, but he's still going to cost a lot more than Ray Stevenson. Now, I know you guys are like, what do you mean? Ray Stevenson is amazing, but that's not how Hollywood always works. Your value is really dependent on a bunch of different factors, and I mean, looking at the numbers, Ray Stevenson kind of got screwed in his last film here. I mean, well, not his last film, but he actually made only $220,000 for the entire season, despite the fact that he had a major presence in a lot of these episodes, and he had some pretty awesome duels he had to prepare for as well. Out of all of the main characters, only Diana Lee Inosanto made less at $170,000 for the entire show, whereas Rosario Dawson made around $2 million for her performance, or $250,000 per episode, which makes sense because she is the lead, and she is also A-list. But even Ivana Shakno, who portrays Shin Hati, earned around $400,000 for a role, and she did a great job in that role. You can't argue against that. But yeah, I guess Ray Stevenson was just valued at a much lower rate for one reason or another. Maybe it was because of his previous experience with, Rebels. Maybe Dave Filoni asked him to do it as a favor. Again, it's all about exposure when you're in a Star Wars film. Like, I think if you're a mid-level, famous kind of actor, you jump for the opportunity to be in Star Wars. It's everyone's dream as an actor from a business standpoint. And I think, you also get a lot of cool merch deals, like, who doesn't want Musk of Skoll ou de Parfum? Russell Crowe has also come up as well in some discussion. I actually think he's a good example of being almost too famous, too well known. He's the kind of character when you see him on screen, it's like, oh, that's not Balon Skoll, that's freaking Russell Crowe pretending to be Balon Skoll. It's a problem. Especially in this case because Ray Stevenson has created such a solid foundation in how he portrays the character. The kind of performance we really need is halfway between a real, genuine performance and an homage to Ray Stevenson, honestly. Obviously, Crowe has the ability, the acting skills to do this. He's an amazing actor, but he looks like Russell Crowe. Plus, he's having a great time fighting around the world. And he's also kind of old school Hollywood, which means that he's a different view on TV shows. He comes from an era where movie stars simply didn't do TV shows unless they were really hurting. I don't think Disney and Russell Crowe will ever find a meaningful starting point for contract negotiations. He's gonna want a few million, at least. It's just not gonna happen. Although I am hoping one day that Disney will be smart enough to go on their knees and beg Ridley Scott to make a Star Wars film. If Tony Gilroy's Andor has told us anything, there's definitely an audience for more serious storytelling within Star Wars. And guys, I love Tony Gilroy. I mean, he made me fall in love with Star Wars again with Andor. It's probably my favorite show Disney's ever made. But at the same time, like, Tony Gilroy was not always the best fit for Star Wars. I have to admit this because he'd never done sci-fi before. And you can kind of tell some of those more fantastical elements he couldn't really jive with. But Ridley Scott, in a lot of ways, it would be the perfect person to tell a serious Star Wars story. I think he understands the hero journey really well as well. And I think if he actually came to Star Wars, he would bring his favorite leading man, which of course is Russell Crowe. So Who knows? Fingers crossed. Next up is Gerard Butler at 6'2" and 53 years old. He's slightly thinner, slightly smaller, and younger than the imposing Stevenson, although he was King Leonidas, so bulking up or padding up or painting, you know, abs on your stomach shouldn't be a problem. Butler is a terrific actor who's gone from action hero to chick flick and back, showing that he definitely has a lot of range. Although his Scottish accent and his attempts to do American accent, you know, they are mixed. Yeah, they are mixed.
But I did say I may be wrong.
Yeah, I have no idea what he said there, but, you know, I do think his voice would be a little jarring if it transitioned into Baylan Skoll. He's also another pretty well-known leading actor, so I don't know how that would work, but he kind of has the build, he has the look, and he has the acting abilities to be Balon Skoll for sure. Now, I do have to say that Ray Stevenson is Irish, Northern Irish, but he has a much more classically trained British acting voice, which sounds, you know, quite different from Gerard Butler and a lot of these other guys. Ian Glenn is another actor that I think would work really well here. He's another Scotsman like Butler, but he has a more classically trained voice like Ray Stevenson. You might remember him as Khaleesi's fearless knight, Sir Mormont.
All I've ever wanted was to serve you. Tyrion Lannister was right. I love you.
He's also Umbrella Corporation's Dr. Alexander Isaacs, and more recently he even portrayed Bruce Wayne in the Titans live-action series. So Ian Glenn doesn't quite have the girth and deepness in voice to match Ray Stevenson here, but he definitely has this noble air to him, which really would work well for Balon Skoll. I could totally see if like Balon Skoll gets a lot of energy sucked out of him by Abeloth. Well, you know, sorry Ian, but that would be you. That would be, you know, like a skinnier, more gaunt version of Ray Stevenson. Plus, Ian Glenn's previous experience with the longsword in Game of Thrones could allow him to transfer into Balon Skoll's lightsaber form quite well, I think. I mean, guys, if you think about it, Balon Skoll versus Ahsoka, you know, knight versus the dual-wielding kind of ninja character, is very similar to a knight fighting a bunch of Dothraki riders. Now, I do think there is one last individual, one actor that I think would absolutely be perfect for this role, but unfortunately, he's already in Star Wars, and he's so well known, it would just be weird. I, of course, am talking about the guy who played Qui-Gon Jinn, Liam Neeson. You know, Liam Neeson has that same towering presence and that same type of voice that really makes people drop what they're doing and listen. I think there is this strength through size that allows these imposing actors to be soft and gentle-like. And I think that's what's so appealing about Balon Skoll. But yeah, if you just brought Liam Neeson back as another character, it'd be so confusing. People are like, wait, is that Qui-Gon Jinn? Like, what is going on here? But anyway, guys, this was fun. I gotta talk about some, you know, some actors I actually really do like outside of Star Wars. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section below which one of these actors I said was your favorite, and also let me know some other actors I probably missed, because there are definitely a lot of guys out there that could probably fit into the Balon Skoll archetype, but will they be good? Will they be a good? Will they be a good? All right, peace.